Hi, this is Greg from the Center Lines, and I want to do a review, an owner's review on a 2019 330i xDrive. I bought this about 2 weeks ago, and I wanted to basically give my input as I was looking at so many reviews for so many different vehicles, and basically all the reviews for this car that I could find. I just felt like I wish there was an owner review where I could see someone who actually owned the vehicle and drove it versus someone who maybe was just a review person driving for a week or just driving it for a day from a dealer. So this is something that I'm hoping to kind of fill in the gaps for those of you who are looking for an owner's review for this 2019 BMW 330i xDrive. So this is the Sport line, not the luxury line and not the M Sport, but this is the Sport line. And I'll have to show you all the options that it has, but the one thing I wanted to make sure was that I had the adaptive cruise control, which is one of my must-have features, and compared to the other brands that I've had with adaptive cruise control, I'm really impressed by the way that this one handles. But one of the reasons why I chose this car is because it looks like a classic BMW in terms of the lines that it has. Of course, the kidney grills, which are larger than normal, but it's going to hold up and age well. And so I also got the mineral white. So my wife has an Alpine white car, and she really loves that, but I like the mineral white, the way that it comes off with the sun. I got the 18-inch wheels. I don't, again, have the M Sport package, and so 18-inch wheels. This is about as small of a car as I would want to get. It has plenty of size in the inside, I'll show you, but one of the things I love back here is just the smoke tail lights. So these are just the factory tail lights, and most people like try to smoke out their lights to make it look like this. So I think that this looks pretty awesome right here. So also the classic BMW, I guess, hockey stick or L design, but again, this is going to age well back here. Dual exhaust tips, I like that. I've got the assist. I didn't know if I'd like that, but I guess it's nice. I've used it ever since instead of just pushing. And then of course underneath here is actually just a battery, so you can't really get underneath there unless you kind of pry underneath it, but there's just a battery underneath this. So these are run flat tires, but there's a good little space here. The seats fold forward, folding both of these, so I could actually pop my bike back here, which is pretty nice, and take it for a ride. Then I have a little kit kind of buried back there, but lots of good space. But I love the design. I love how the lines look, and I've owned it for about 2 weeks now, actually, and have within 1 week, we put 2,200 miles on it as we went down to southern Utah and went to Zion National Park and Bryce Canyon and did kind of a good run. So that was quite fun. And here is what it looks like with the headlights on and the daytime running lights. This one happens to have the laser LED headlights, which are pretty awesome. Light up the road really well. I've used the auto on, off, or high beam and low beam feature, still trying to get used to it. Ended up turning it off and just using the high beam, low beam on myself because I felt like it was super active going high beam, low beam. And it just so happens right now the front grille is actually open, trying to cool down. That actually closes, so you can see into there now, but that'll actually close when you're going at high speeds and try and make it more aerodynamic according to them. According to the designers. One of the features that I had set from the dealer was where when you walk to the car, it will unlock for you, and then when you walk away from the car, it will lock. And I thought it was pretty cool at first, but then I would be standing outside of my car talking with someone, and the car was confused, thinking I was coming or going. It would lock, unlock, lock, unlock. So I just found it easier to turn that off, even though I thought it was a cool feature, and to just use the regular, put your hand, in, and it unlocks, and so you can get in. So there's something I want to talk about in here, if I could. First of all, it's very quiet. Obviously we have the engine running, but it's very quiet when it's running. And this right here, this dash, seeing it on videos a lot, I kept thinking, man, look how small these vents are. But really this whole area is the vent. And then I also couldn't really tell the depth. So when you're looking at this, it actually looks really nice from a depth standpoint. And then I had a few people were saying how that they felt like the buttons felt cheap and cheesy, and actually I really like how these buttons feel. So I really like the vehicle, obviously, so I guess it might be somewhat of a biased opinion, but when I was doing the reviews, I was hoping to get some of the things that I think people were saying. And then down here, when I was looking at these buttons, there's a few things that I was worried about watching on the reviews. But again, once again, I found that I really like it and I like the design. Some people were saying that the way that this feels cheap. There is, I guess, a little ridge on the backside, but I never really feel like that's cheap. I think it looks nice and feels good. And then some people say, well, the button's kind of in a weird position. But with all the hand gestures and the stuff that you do with this vehicle, to me it almost feels like they designed it to, you have this as your control here, but then when you're done, you just kind of put your hand like this and then push it. That's not a shifting type position, and so that's an obvious push done. I think some people are doing this awkward, trying to put your hand over here and push the park, but I've found that it's kind of seems intuitive that you would just kind of pinch it like this, and then that's an obvious I'm in park because I pinched it there, versus just trying to wonder, did I push the right button and am I in park? So I'm going to go ahead and hit start. In one of the reviews it says there's no on-off start. It's obviously right there. If you put it in sport mode, it automatically turns that auto off on. But of course I always push that. Now, one of the things I noticed in the videos is when you push, it pushes this whole panel down. And I thought, well, that's kind of cheap. You push this thing and you can kind of see the whole thing go down. If you push that one, I mean, how does it know? But it does. It figures out which button you're pushing. And then I do agree with one of the reviews where it talked about having one big piece leaves less lines to get dirt and grime in. And so I really like that. And I found that I like how these buttons push and how they feel. They respond really well. I know that the iDrive, this has got the iDrive 7, of course, because it's the 2019 330i xDrive, but so it's got a high-rated infotainment system, which, again, I've been looking over a year at multiple different brands in infotainment systems and found that this one being a high-rated one, and as well as my wife having the iDrive 6 in her vehicle, I knew that it would be something that I like. So coming over here to the instrument cluster, I really like this instrument cluster. Seeing it on videos, I just didn't know if I did. I don't know if I like the points on the edge, if the tachometer going around the outside. Seeing it in person, again, it's just so much nicer than looking at it in the review. That center where it's got the map, where you can choose for the map right here, that actually, the only other option you can have, I guess, is step-by-step direction. So I thought I'll just keep the map on. I don't need the step-by-step. That pops up in so many other areas. And of course this one has the heads-up display, which is one of the features that I love. Now this one has the adaptive cruise control, and these are the features that I have right here. So I love the adaptive cruise control. This is going to be my third vehicle with adaptive cruise control, and I love how this one, first of all, it's got the up and down, so you can move it up and down. The last one that I had a 2018 Honda Accord. It only had one button, so you had to cycle all the way down for spacing, and then when you cycle it again, it'd pop back up, and then cycle. So if you wanted to move one bar away from the vehicle in front of you, if you're familiar with adaptive cruise control, you had to hit it 3 times to get it to the right one. This one you go up or down, which I love. Never used this limiter button. I used it on the test drive not knowing what it was, and I couldn't figure out why. I had to really punch it to the ground to get the vehicle to move, but this will limit your speed if you put it at a certain thing. So this has got the, of course, the assist with driving, keeping it in the lanes and all of that stuff. And there's a little light there that you don't really notice if you don't have the vehicle without it. I actually love this steering wheel. This is the same steering wheel as my wife's X3, and I love how it looks. I love the depth. I love that it's got a heated steering, and I love the feel of it. It is a little bit skinnier up on the top, but that doesn't really bother me. I really like that. So instrument cluster overall, I love the steering wheel, and of course the paddle shifters. I don't really use that. I've tried it, but I figure the car is smarter than I am and will get going where it wants to. One of the features that I thought might be kind of cheesy or gimmicky was the volume control, or the gesture control, excuse me. I thought, why would I use gesture controls when I can just turn the steering up and down right here, or up on the steering wheel? And what I found, or the other thing is skip a song by using the thumb to the right feature. And I thought, why would I be using that if I can just push the buttons? But what I found is that as I kept pushing these buttons to skip, I thought, man, I keep pushing this button quite a bit. I suddenly learned how much I loved just hitting my thumb like that, and then turning the steering wheel, yes, or the volume, I use the volume knob, or the volume here for a little more precise. But if I want to get the volume up quick or not worry about touching the knob, I just do this with my finger and I get it going. So I found that I actually really like the gesture control. Again, thinking, why would I even want to have that feature on my car? A couple of other things I wanted to point out is I do love how this black kind of rolls into the instrument cluster. I don't know if you can see that there, but it kind of rolls into the instrument cluster. It actually matches this side that kind of rolls into the instrument cluster. So sitting right here in the driver's seat, it does feel a lot like a good cockpit with a good balance in terms of, you know, how it kind of all works together. Looks really nice. And so I was trying to talk about the speakers and the ambient lighting. So you can kind of see where the ambient lighting goes. That's purple. This is all over here is purple. There's a speaker here. There is a tweeter there, and then there's a subwoofer underneath each of the seats. And then, so I have 3 in the front. So 1, 2, 3 on each side. So that's 6. Then 2 in the back. That's 7, 8. And then, so I was told, and I can't see them, but I was told they're up here in this area right here. So that would be the 9 and 10. I don't know if I believe that or not, but that's where 9 and 10 are. So I'm someone who really likes to have a nice stereo system. I was really concerned about not getting the vehicle with the Harman Kardon system in it, but this vehicle sounds awesome in terms of sound, and I'm a person who needs to have good sound. So I was very impressed with this basic stereo. So I'm sure if the Harman Kardon sounds better, then that's even great. But for me, and someone who loves to listen to music, I'm again impressed with the overall sound, with the bass with it, and everything. So nothing too big to point out up here. It's just got the basic options, you know, the lights. It's got the purple ambient lighting, which is what I have it set at purple right now. It's got the pretty large sunroof. It's not a full size, you know, covering the whole roof, but it's larger than normal, and that's good enough for me. Now this vehicle has the contrast stitching in the Vernasca leather, which I do like that. It does look good. It feels good. Now I said that we took it on a trip for down to southern Utah. I live in Washington, and so it was a good, you know, 10-14 hour drive, and so I never had the feeling of discomfort and sitting in these seats, as well as I never had that sweaty back feel. It just felt good, like, you know, I loved how that feels. So one thing I did want to do is I want to get in the back seat. So I'm 5'9", and I sit pretty far back from the steering wheel. I do want to show you what it looks like from the standpoint of from where I'm sitting. So my daughter is taller than I am, and so there's still room. I mean, I'm sitting back here. I don't feel cramped. It's just, you know, the seat is right there in front of me, so I'm not gonna be able to like stretch out my legs. If I'm the only person back here, I guess I could stretch my legs out. But she said she sat back here and didn't get sick at all during that whole trip, when in the past she has with other vehicles. But in the back, I only see 2 speakers on each side. So I see, of course, the ambient lighting, which is super awesome. Then the speaker here, and a nice size cup holder. Same thing on this side is the speaker right there, and of course the ambient lighting, and then of course the nice size cup holder. Now the nice thing about this one is it does have the own control in the back, so she can control, you know, the person in the back can control their you know, what they want, the temperature wise. Has the USB, so I had to, and I have an iPhone, so I had to buy a USB-C to Lightning, so that she could have, you know, basically a charger when she's in the back. Now it also has a USB-C in the center console, but then it has a regular USB right up here. So one other thing I did want to show is I personally like this wood color here. I really do not like the aluminum on the Sport trim. Another reason why I went with the Sport line. And I thought, because I've had some vehicles where this area, and I've watched reviews and I thought this thing kind of looks cheap for a luxury vehicle, but I have found that I actually do like how it feels, and I think it works great. I put my glasses right there. This is where if you had the wireless charger, it would be, I don't have that, but it does have the NFC reader, so if you have a digital key, it can read the digital key if you had that. If you have a, I guess, an Android phone, or the card that comes with the vehicle. But these work well, the cup holders work well. Here's the regular USB. So I found that I like that quite a bit. Now at nighttime, I really love the ambient lighting. It's one of the coolest things. Some of the things that people were talking about with this is that it feels cheap and hard, plasticky. Well, there is soft touch here. I'm not sure exactly why everyone's so into that, but it is a little bit harder up here. It is soft here. To me, it feels luxurious, and there is hard plastic on it. And I kind of feel like, well, it's a 3 Series. That's kind of what you get. But to me, I've never at all felt cheap at all. It's sounded solid. And I've never sat in this and thought, man, I kind of feel cheap. The whole time I've sat in this thing, I felt nothing but luxury. Not even talking about the driving experience yet, so we'll get into that. Okay, I wanted to give you guys an example or test drive and show you the difference between sport and comfort. And so one thing I heard a lot in the videos that I was reviewing was about this sport mode, how it pumps the sound for the engine kind of in through the speakers a little bit. And I looked the reviews up. I think it pumps about 7 decibels higher for that engine noise. And at first I thought that sounded, I was reading reviews that said sounds juvenile, and I thought, oh, that kind of sounds gimmicky or cheesy. But now I found that I actually put it in sport mode partly for the reason just so I can hear that engine noise. So it's actually much better sounding than what I thought it would be based off of all the reviews. So I have it in sport mode right now, and we'll go ahead and take her for a spin. So that engine noise is coming in, and I do like how that sounds. But this car handles so nice on the road. When I was driving down, I guess, down through Utah, it would cruise easily between 90 and 100 without even knowing, and be just waiting for me to give it gas to go even higher, even faster. So this handles really well in the corners. The body roll just doesn't seem to be that much at all. And so again, always in the reviews they talked about having this, the ultimate driving machine, and the 3 Series is the flagship, and they want to get that back. And I feel that, I don't know what the other ones were like, so I can't really compare, but I do love how this one drives. I can put my foot into it going around the corner, and I'm not worried at all about leaning or being pushed out to the side. But it handles great. So the other thing is going back to comfort mode. So usually, in sport mode, one thing I've noticed is that when you take your foot off the gas, like right away, it's almost like it's on or off. There's no like soft, let your foot off the gas, it's gonna coast a little bit. It's like on or off. So it's definitely in kind of a sport position. So you can actually configure that in the individual thing, and I've done that a little bit and kind of messed with that. But when you go into comfort mode, you still get fast acceleration if you put your foot into it, but it is a lot softer when I take my foot off the gas. And it does seem to be, so definitely when I'm riding with someone in the car, I like to leave it in comfort mode because it's not as jerky. But I do love having it in sport mode for the sound and for the way that it feels. And so most of the time I'm actually driving it in sport mode. I wanted to show what it looks like here with the carpet at night. So you can see the light that shines here at the door. That's pretty awesome. And then also I want to show what the lights look like here. Kind of bright, so kind of hard to get an exact shot on that. But carpet on both sides looks pretty cool. Okay, I just wanted to show what the instrument cluster looked like at night. It doesn't look too bright, so that it's so bright that you can't really see when you're looking out. And there's the heads-up display there, of course. And then I wanted to show the ambient lighting. So right now it's set to purple, but you can change it to multiple different colors. So blue, I'll just show a couple here, green, and of course it shows it on both doors, and it actually shows it in the back seat as well. And then there's the ambient lighting up here, and then there's ambient lighting in the back. But so that's a pretty cool feature. I, for some reason, have been kind of keeping it on purple, but I kind of like that. So I wanted to show here what the heads-up display looks like. So I wanted to show what it shows in the heads-up display. Also shows the directions, as well as the cruise control, along with the lane keep assist, the speed limit, and the miles per hour. So quite a bit of information on there. And I changed the setting to be lower because it was a little bit up. And I'm not talking about adjusting it lower or higher, but there is a reduced height setting as well, where it kind of moved things all to the bottom instead of having it all kind of spaced around up top. But I turned off the voice setting for this, otherwise it would be telling me where to make these turns. But it's pretty cool that it shows me the map right there in the screen up on the heads-up display. I hope this video kind of filled in the gaps a little bit. I know I was craving an owner review that had some, what it was like when you actually owned the vehicle and spent some time with it and what it really felt like. So hope that this kind of filled in some of the gap for that. Anyway, if you have any suggestions or ideas, just let me know.